Okay, so the Marathon ARG happened over 4-ish days. It was pretty incredible, and we were part of the final teams to solve it. So I would say, like, really, there are way too many people to thank, obviously. But I would say my community, Mr. Waffle Waffle or Milo's community, Bog on My Dog's community, Traxion helped us a bunch, CB Gray helped, Evan helped, Aztecross's community, the Reddit community, and the Discord community. I'm talking like literally thousands of people were required to solve this, and it was nothing short of amazing to watch. And because of that, I originally, when I was going through this and like preparing, I was going to try to assign like who solved every step, but it's pretty much impossible. Like, different people say like different people solve different steps and stuff, and like honestly this was a huge community thing. So instead of like looking at like who got the final solve of whatever, I'm just gonna say like the entire community like absolutely destroyed it, and we're gonna recap it here. If you want to see the first ARG, which I got the final solve of, I will have that linked down in the description below or in the comment section below. And if anything changes, I am going to update the comment section below as well. Alrighty, so the second ARG started when the marathon accounts across different platforms started tweeting out these videos. And people would look at them and try to solve all sorts of things. They come back into play later, but for now, they really just serve as like a notice, like, hey, these accounts are active, something's going on. And what people quickly realized is that the websites that were part of the first ARG 2 years ago were active again. Whereas after that ARG was solved, once again, nearly 2 years ago, they were all taken down, they were back. And so, for instance, the first one that people realized were back was hereoursilence.com. This is a website that represents the in-lore faction of mida. And when you go to the site, you notice a couple of things. Once, like in the middle here, it just says there's a URL that says one voice many hereoursilence.com. Also, if you look at like the tab, you can see it's like scrolling text. That'll come back here in a second as well. If you go to this URL, it brought you to a link where you could sign up for a Twitch overlay that updated as more people joined your stream. And essentially, the last ARG, when it ended, we found a secret live stream. You had to get, I think, 7,777 people in there to unlock the Vidoc. This time, they're starting it off by saying, hey, you can start this ARG, but you need 10,000 people watching in order to start the ARG. And so the first thing was like really just getting people hyped for this puzzle. I can't access any of this anymore. I have pictures of the overlay here that I can pull up. This was a little bit of an overlay that would, as this is the number of people watching total in the marathon directory, and as that number approached 10,000, this picture kind of filled in and evolved over time. And when 10,000 people were finally reached, it changed to plus 714 Frontier. Now, that's pretty cool, but that is actually a solution, or part of the solution, to the very final part of the ARG. And you will not be hearing about this again for like 15 minutes until we get to the end of the ARG. So really, the first step of this puzzle gave us one of the three solutions for the final step, which is pretty cool. I mentioned earlier that if you look at the tab here on the website, it's scrolling, where there's just a constant phrase. Here is that kind of all typed out. Impenetrable veils, all is poisoned, thought mind, do not drink from the well we see, with eyes bright, revelation in anti-rev, calloused bleeding hands, justice sought for the rotting corpse of tomorrow, left yesterday in gutters gleam discarded dreams, the poetry of disillusioned hope, art as a weapon, war as breath, life is fragile, break, icon, I think that's supposed to be icon, listen, close, closer, us, them, we, you, I. They're static in their propaganda. Anti-rev grows. Against for hold the line. R plus A plus G plus E is the key, seek key. Earned, unleashed, truth is blade. Sharp, firm, carving lies. New path, own path. We, us, you, them, I. Lost in the corrupt system. Rage in the face of hollow promise hidden in plain sight. Hide, seek, find, destroy. Free from deceit, blinds. are freeform, deceit blinds with impenetrable veils. All is poison, thought mine do not. So it's just like a cyclical carousel of text. This is classic mida pilled nonsense, okay? So mida loves to speak in these crazy phrases. They're my current favorite faction of the Marathon universe. They are kind of like a revolting faction against like a fascist government, the uesc, the uesc, the United Earth Space Command, as well as the corporations that kind of control a large part of the Marathon universe, Traxas, Setaguchi, New Caloric, and a couple other ones. So that's kind of like setting the stage. What was figured out is that this R plus A plus G plus E is actually the next step of the puzzle. So I mentioned earlier that a lot of the old websites were brought up again. That also includes the uesc website, uesc.io/login. But someone figured out, I didn't even know this was possible, that if you refresh the site and you hold down the letters that make the word rage, you get a secret backend console. So I'm gonna hit Control R to refresh the site, and then I'm just gonna type, hold down RAGE simultaneously. And instead of bringing you to the login page, you get this secret console. I'm not a computer science nerd. I literally did not know you could make anything do that. It's absurd. Very cool. So when you access this terminal, there are a series of commands that you can do to progress the ARG. So for instance, if you type help into the command console, it'll bring up a list of little commands that you can use there. CD to navigate to folders, LS to like list what's inside folders. There's also, you can execute certain files to use them. That's all gonna play into account. So for instance, I'm kind of in the root here. If I hit LS, it'll show you all of the possible files here that I can open within this system. And if I want to go to any certain one of those, say I wanna go to CD, and I wanna go into the operational protocols file, I literally will type out operational protocols, CD space operational protocols, and that will enter me there, and I can hit LS to see like what's in that file. What was found is that deep within these files, there is actually a hidden decryption device that will help you decrypt certain messages that you can find throughout the ARG. So that's going to be within the legislation file first. So you have to move into the legislation file. Then you have to move into, within this file, the security file. And within that, you have to move into the cybersecurity file. And then you have to move into, if you list in this, you'll see that there's the decrypt.sh executable. So if you execute that file, it will unlock this decryption device where you have an input where it has all these crazy marathon symbols, and you will be able to decrypt those using a certain key. So right about this time, people started noticing a couple of things. So first off, the mida account tweeted out this message.
This is a unified Earth Space Council secure transmission. Security clearance, data, file, key.
So it's essentially a minute and a half of that, where it's just a bunch of random noises, a bunch of silence, and then a bunch more random noises. And what people found out, somehow, I have no idea how anyone put this together, to be completely honest, is to start off with, the first sequence of noises are all unique. And so people labeled those noises 0, 1, 2, all the way to 9. And then after they hit 9, they went A, B, C, all the way to F. And so you ended up with 0 through 9, A through F, labeled individual unique noises. Then the second half you can hear there's some repeating noises just even in that small clip. And so they assigned the letters from the unique in the numbers, the letters and numbers, the characters with the first sequence of sounds that were all unique. Once they were identified, they applied those to their corresponding sounds in the second half of this. Once again, absurd that anyone thought to do that. At the same time, it was realized that the Marathon banner, like if you go to the Marathon social accounts, you can see there are special symbols that are in brackets here that correspond to the decryption. And so you can see there's a ton of symbols that are all over the place, but the only ones that seem to have any sort of purpose are these that are within brackets. And here's a better look at those. This was also in the Bungie press kit, but you can see here, there's brackets here, a sequence of symbols, and then brackets. Those are both important. When you took the sound, the sequence that I just played for you, I played you a little snippet, and you assigned them all of their characters, 0 through 9, A through F, you ended up with this, which is hexadecimal, and when you translate it, it comes out to key 34769-M. Obviously, some sort of key for some sort of decryption. Well, it just so happens that we have a decryption tool that uses these exact symbols and requires a key. And so that's exactly what people did. They came over to the Marathon site here, or the uesc site. They entered the symbols, which I will go ahead and do very quickly. They went ahead and I entered that entire string of characters that you could find in the Marathon social account headers. Then you hit decrypt, and that's when you input the key. So once again, the key ended up being key 34769-M. Key 34769, nice, -M. And when you decrypt that, it puts out the answer /.farsight7. And people realize that this looks like another directory, actually. So, and in fact it was. And so it was discovered that farsight7 is actually a hidden directory within this terminal. So if you go all the way back up to the roots, which just means like when you're looking at like a file pathway, the roots like as far back as you can go. So I can type cd ... to go up a level. So I left cybersecurity, went back into security. I typed it again. I went from security back into legislation. So now if I go cd into that / .farsight7, I have entered this secret directory. And then I can look what's in the directory with the command ls, and you can see there is a secret sound bin file here, and you have to execute that. You can't open like a file with that sort of extension, so I'm going to use instead the command exec or execute sound.bin. And that will open up this, which is super cool. This is an ASCII version of the original teaser trailer of Marathon, where this is someone getting shot in the head. And if you scroll your mouse, sorry, epilepsy warning, by the way, for like a lot of this. If you scroll your mouse, you will see different frames from the trailer in ASCII. You can see that running and flashing and stuff. Like Bungie creative teams or whatever, they are the most creative people I have ever met in my entire life. What was discovered, if you click around different parts of this terminal, it will unveil different codes. So like I just clicked here and you can see there is a series of hex codes there. So as you can see, if you spend time and you click around, you can find 5 different hexadecimal codes. When you translate them, here I have transcribed them, translated them to text, you get the words Discord, the, is, path, forward, which, you know, you can decrypt into Discord is the path forward, and you have to click them in the correct order. So Discord is the path forward. And when you click them in the correct order, this sequence of hexadecimal numbers pops up. They do translate to things, but it's not actually a simple message. Okay, so I've translated all of those over to an Excel document for ease. And once again, these are hexadecimal. So you can go ahead and translate them into their respective commands or characters. what was kind of figured out is that the bottom 2 rows here, instructions is not part of the translation. I've just put that there for clarity. But it was discovered that the bottom 2 rows essentially act as your set of instructions on how to make your way through the top part of the code there and decrypt your final message. So for instance, start is the first command. You have a start command here. And then you just follow this left to right as if you're reading a book. So start, then you backspace, so that gives you capital F. Then you have a tab, essentially, which moves you to the end of these lines, or 8 spaces forward, which is going to give you capital C. Then you have a backspace, which brings you from the capital C to a lowercase z. Then you have a carriage return, which brings you back to the beginning of this line, back to lowercase t. You have a line feed once again, which gives you capital P. Then you once again have the tab, which brings you all the way to lowercase g there. You have a backspace to capital G. You have one more backspace here. Capital Z, excuse me. One more backspace to 5. And then you have a line feed once again to the beginning of the next line, which is 8. And then you have end null, 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 which means, hey, you're at the end of the code. Let me just double check I got the correct answer. That I did. Let's go. And it was discovered that you are supposed to use this in combination with the code that you clicked. Discord is the path forward. When you entered this as part of a Discord invite, it actually invited you to a secret marathon ARG Discord. Now, this Discord has been absolutely ravaged. So for parts of these, I might try to get like footage from my streams or other people's streams for this. So if I use anyone else's footage, I'll have it linked down in the description below to give them credit for it. But essentially, there was a channel with a bot who was spamming different messages that looked like this. And every 7 minutes, it would post this exact same message. And what people realized is when they typed in chat, if their word was in this block of text, it would replace the section of this text with that word. So if I typed like the, it would replace certain parts of this with the word the if it was in this block of text. And so the community had to work together to find out what this block of text was. Now, earlier, we talked about this screen, the sound bin. This is what kind of started the whole thing. There's actually a clue to what the block of text was on this site. So depending where you are on this, there's different sounds that play. So like right now on top right, here I'm like mid left. If you go bottom right, there's this noise, which people figured out is actually someone reading the poem Ozymandias.
And on the pedestal, these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my work, ye mighty in despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the cave, that colossal wreck, boundless and bare. The lonely little sands stretch far away.
And so people like soon realized that this block of text that the bot was doing was that poem. So when the community was able to enter and replace all of the words successfully to get the full poem unlocked and replaced by the bot shut down the channel, opened a bunch of new ones, and said sequence complete, motivate, inspire, disrupt, agitate, begin. Everyone /DAC is the path forward. Now, I'm not gonna be able to show you this once again. Maybe I'll grab some footage from one of my older streams. But now you were able to go in this Discord and do different commands to do different things. And one of them was /DAC. This command would make the bot message you with a unique image. And so let me find the image it gave me. So for instance, this was the DAC or the access card that it gave me. This plays into another website that we're going to talk about here in a second. Now on the Discord, there were also some contracts and stuff like side puzzles to figure out. Those were not part of the main ARG, so I'm not going to go over those here. I will probably do a video on the contracts in the future because they are adding new contracts and it seems like that's going to be like pertinent and part of a larger puzzle going forward. So look out for a separate video on those in the near future. But the main thing to get from this was the DACs. This started breaking immediately because you had like 1 billion people spamming a bot. The bot couldn't keep up. It crashed for like an entire day. I I don't think any of that was planned. And so eventually what happened is the mida account tweeted out like a master DAC that you could use. This thing, so this is a digital access card that every single person could use to access the site that we're about to talk about. But it's just important to note, like, this wasn't probably supposed to be part of the ARG, but it ended up working anyways. Like, it didn't work as intended because the community was too crazy, and it was actually pretty funny to watch in real time. But for the purpose of like how we solved it, that's not really that important. So I mentioned earlier that old websites from the previous ARG were active again. We've already used the mida one. We've already used the uesc one. Then we were faced with the traxas one. Traxas is kind of like the space Amazon of the Marathon universe. You can see here that this is like a directory. You can see there's grayed out words that you can access. There's white words that you can access. And you navigate this site by scrolling up and down. So when we first got access to this website, again, only 2 of the phrases here were in white. So here you can see like half of them are in white. We'll come back to that here in a second. But originally, only 2 of these phrases were active. The first one was going to be traxas management console, which we'll get to in a second. And the second one was the CB3463 drill. This brings you to a PDF. It is the only one of these that brings you to a separate document. I think this is going to be something in the future, but I don't know for sure. This is one of like the unsolved leads of the ARG. Then there's a couple more that we'll talk about towards the end of this video. But if you clicked on the traxas management console, it loaded up another website where you could see essentially Traxas's satellite array, and they were kind of separated into 3 distinct rings. You had the core array here in the center, you had the middle array, which was the transit array, and then you had the outer frontier array. This would be the final solve for this ARG. We just didn't know it at the time. And this is where I think like information starts to get kind of crazy. So you might notice that the outer ring frontier actually matches the wording of one of the first solutions that we got. And as I mentioned before, when we solved, or when we got 10,000 people to watch the Marathon directory concurrently, it came up with the +714 frontier. So that's the first part. And people started putting together very quickly that then we also need a transit, or the middle core is going to need a code, and core is going to need a code. Now, around this time, Marathon also tweeted out this picture. We needed a lot of help with this one. So what the community discovered is if you go to this picture and you mess with the levels a little bit, so like the color levels, you can see the mida symbol here in the bottom. It might be hard for you guys to see. Let me see if I can increase it. There you go. You can see kind of the mida symbol here. And also some of the pixels in this grid are different colors. So like this guy's a different color, that guy's a different color, this guy's a different color. And so people started color shifting all of these. I have them color coded here. They also had these segmented off into 1, 2, and 3. And it was very quickly discovered by some music geniuses that these 3 sections correspond to 3 different songs. So in order, the top section, or 1, corresponded to Vivaldi's Spring. The second one was Sadie by Gennetto PD. I live in the South United States, man. That ain't happening, okay? And the last one is Air by Bach. These are 3 classic pieces. And that was kind of as far as we got with this puzzle without extreme intervention by Bungie. We didn't really know what to do with that information. There were a lot of theories being thrown around, but nowhere did it really tell us what to do with the resulting information. Also, around this time, the original Traxas site, once they kind of fixed the Discord bot and they sent out the universal DAC, it was discovered that a lot more of these had opened up, and that's what like the rest of the white words are. Like I mentioned, originally it was just the drill and the traxas. But now you can go to these, and if you click on them, they're adverts for all the different companies within the Marathon universe. So here's uesc. That first one was Traxas. We have some really good ones down here. This is Setaguchi Genetics. They're the ones that make like the biomata, like the exoskeletons that the runners wear, according to the first ARG. My favorite ones are the new caloric ones. These guys are awesome. They make like some of the food. Just corn, no cob. care, streamlined. Anyways, it was discovered that each one of these ads has a barcode. And if you take something with a barcode on the right and something with the barcode on the left and you put them together like that, that would happen. And every combination with a different right piece would give you a different number for transit. And so we started to have to discover what the correct combination of ads was. At this time, there was also a new message in the Discord, which was this. Looks like a text file, but also when you put it into a notepad, it kind of looks like sound waves. And what people realized is if you count the number of X's in every row, it actually comes out to decimal, which you can then convert into words, into text. Override controls without leaving traces. What it was then discovered very quickly. I was live for this one, and people knew this literally immediately. It was pretty awesome to watch come together. That there were two of these ads here that contained those words. The two ads were this virtual reality training suite. So this is a Traxas one that says override controls. And then the one right under it, smart sensor network, is a Cyber Acme ad that says without leaving traces, which is exactly what that last code translated to. When you put them together, we got transit minus 978. So now we have frontiers plus 714, and we have transit minus 978. What we needed was the final core message here, or the number for the core satellites, the ones in the very middle. So like I mentioned, we had the frontier code, we had the code for transit. Where we spent a long time was trying to find out what the message for core was. It turns out it ended up being this. The problem I have is that the other two like very directly told you what the satellite was. This one never explicitly said that the solution went to core or any satellite at all. So we thought it was just a dead end for a side puzzle. And so I'm gonna show some footage on stream right now. Essentially how this worked is when you uploaded your DAC here. So like, let me take the master DAC and upload it. It would give you access to the satellite system. And what you can do is you can click on any of the three arrays, core, transit, frontier, and every few seconds you can move its position either +1 or -1. So you can see I'm clicked on the middle one, which is transit. Its position is 9. Well, it's moving all over the place because for some reason people are still messing with this site, even though the ARG's been done for 24 hours. But I can hit -1, and then in 30 seconds I can adjust it again. And so we had 5,000 people logged into this site, and they all had to work. That's what happens when you solve it. That wasn't supposed to happen while I was explaining this. Anyways, you had to all work together to try to find the final solution and align the satellites. And when it was done correctly, that happened. The problem is we still didn't know what that core code was. And so while we were trying to figure it out, we were trying different things. The mida account started freaking out at us. Origin shifts, coordinates transform, adjust from origin, plus minus, transit. And they were getting really angry. And around the same time, we got a second secret message in the Discord as well. But it was just a bunch of pluses and minuses. If you read them down the columns in binary, so 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, and so on, you got the code test flow equals minus plus, which is of course backwards. If you read that backwards, like any rational person would, it says plus minus equals offset. And so like that was happening. Everyone had different ideas of what was happening, but at this time, remember, we still didn't have the value for core, the final satellites. And so mida was once again kind of freaking out at us, watching us try to solve it. And eventually they retweeted this image, which people thought was really weird. And someone in my chat, Hexcody, actually figured this out. It was actually a different version of the image that was manipulated with a second hidden message. So if you go to the layers property or the levels property, it still has that mida logo. But if you do it, if you shift the colors a different way, there's a whole different message here, which is -413 is core. So essentially Bungie said, all right, you guys are too dumb to figure this out. We're just gonna give you the answer, which is exactly what they did, which is pretty funny. I believe the proper solution actually has to do with the complete works that each of these orchestral songs were part of. Or these classical songs were a part of. So Vivaldi's Spring is part of the Four Seasons. The Sadie song is like listed as #1. Like if you look, it's Gymnetopede #1. And then this Air song by Bach is part of the Third Suite, which is I guess a collection of songs or whatever. That makes 413. And the original tweet from Marathon had a minus in it as well. That's something I didn't go over last time, but it actually had a minus. And so Bungie was like, yeah, you guys are kind of too dumb to solve this, -413. I think that's how it was supposed to be done. So then we had the solutions to the 3 satellite rings. We knew the Frontiers ring was +714. The middle one, Transit, was -978, and the final one, the core, is -413. So we had the correct numbers for the satellites: +714 for the Frontiers, the outer ring, the middle ring, Transit, -978, and core, -413. So due to our 3 puzzles, we had the 3 final kind of instructions. And we tried a bunch of different things. This was really hard because once again, you had 5,000 people trying to control the satellites and move them. And so we had to coordinate them with our chats in the Discord. It was pretty freaking awesome, to be honest. And then also, you only had 2 minutes to do it. I guess these people are just solving it over and over again. But you only had 2 minutes to do it because every 2 minutes, the satellites would reset to random origin points, and then you would have 2 minutes to align them again. And what was discovered is the values were how the satellites had to be manipulated relative to their position. So let's say the Frontier satellite, when it reset, spawned on 500, you had to move it 714 more, so to 1214. And then, core, whatever it spawned on, let's say it spawned on 5, you had to move it -413, so it'd go to -408 in that scenario. And so what we did is I had Milo, Mr. Awful Waffles, read me the numbers, the origin points of the numbers. I calculated what they would be in their, what we had to make them. And then we had to align all of our communities to plus and -1 the satellites all at the same time to hit the correct orientation all within 2 minutes, while fighting people who didn't agree with how we were doing the puzzle. It was very hectic, but once we finally got the correct solution, the final gameplay reveal trailer, save the date, was shown to us. You can see our reactions in the trailer that I've linked down below in the comment section. Now, there are a couple of loose ends. I mentioned the drilling equipment, I'm pretty sure is going to be something. In the terminal for uesc, there is also different commands that allow you to hack into different computers that we need a password for that we don't have yet. And then there were a series of videos like this that have noise in them that I think are pretty clearly someone talking, but we haven't been able to figure out how to isolate that and make it sound like anything. So that in the background, I think is someone talking. But we haven't been able to figure that out. So there's a couple loose ends that I think might unfold over the upcoming weeks. We'll, of course, do videos on those as well. After we unlocked the trailer, it also unlocked this site, escapewillmake.me. When you enter it, gives you sick music, first off. It also tries to use your webcam, which I'm just going to block for now. I'm going to continue. But essentially, you would get to this screen where you can play around with your camera and it makes you look cool. But there were some of these images here. There were actually 100 of them. And so we collected all the pieces from the community. We got them in order. Me, Milo, Bog, and Wabi. And a couple of people sent in massive collections of pieces. It was an awesome group effort. And we eventually pieced it all together to show off this character, which Joe Ziegler has already said is codename Stealth. So that is the extent of the ARG yesterday. Over the past week, but culminating yesterday. We now have this new concept art and the save the dates for the official gameplay reveal trailer on Saturday. If you have any questions about the ARG, or ask them down below. If I forgot anything, I'll update that pinned comment. Thank you guys for watching, and anytime we get new secrets, you can check here for an update. Have a fantastic day.